It was just after 9 p.m. on a Wednesday when my phone rang. At that hour, calls are rarely good news. Either it's a wrong number, a scam, or something that will ruin your sleep. The screen showed an unfamiliar California number. I almost let go to voicemail, but something, maybe the old-fashioned area code, maybe the faint instinct you get after years of my line of work, made me swipe to answer. Hello. For a moment, all I heard was breathing. Then a woman's voice, thin and breaking. Is this Mr. Vega? Her tone froze me. It wasn't the slick, false warmth of a telemarketer. It wasn't the clipped efficiency of a bank rep. It was the sound of someone clinging to a rope over a cliff, and she wasn't sure it would hold. Yes, I said carefully. Who's calling? She stopped. I could hear her gathering herself. My name is Ruth Delgado. I need help. Someone told me you help people. I help people sometimes. I said, leaning forward in my chair. Depends on the problem. There was a pause, then a shuddering inhale. They're trying to take my house. My own family. My son, my daughter-in-law. I don't know who else. They're saying I signed things I never signed. The bank is sending letters. I don't understand them. I'm not good with paperwork anymore. Her voice cracked on the last word, and I could hear her trying not to cry. I reached for the notepad I keep next to the phone. Where in California are you, Mrs. Delgado? Ventura, she said quickly, as if the location itself might vanish if she hesitated. It's been my home for 52 years. I raised my children here. I buried my husband here. And now, her voice dropped to a whisper, now they want me gone. I've heard plenty of stories about family betrayals, sisters suing each other over inheritance, nephews cleaning out bank accounts. But something about the way she said, they want me gone made my skin crawl. What exactly are they saying you signed? I asked. Another pause. I could hear her fumbling with papers. Then she read something aloud in a halting voice. Deed transfer to Michael and Stephanie Reynolds. Retaining life tenancy for Ruth Delgado. Life tenancy, I repeated. That means you'd still be allowed to live there on paper anyway, but they'd own the house. They said it was just so they could help with the mortgage. She said, the words tumbling out. They brought papers after dinner one night. Told me to sign so they could handle everything for me. Michael is my only son. I thought he was protecting me. Her breathing quickened. But now they say I have to move into a smaller place. And Stephanie keeps talking about selling the house for profit. It's like they can't wait for me to die. The way she said it, flat, almost resigned, made my stomach knot. Mrs. Delgado. I said slowly, when was this deed transfer signed? March. But I didn't read it all. I just trusted him. Her voice cracked again. I didn't think my son would. She stopped, unable to finish. I gave her a moment, listening to the faint hum of the line. In my experience, trusted him is often the first chapter of a disaster. Do you have copies of all the paperwork? I asked. Yes, I've kept everything. I hide them in the freezer, under the frozen peas. I couldn't help it. I almost smiled. People hide valuables in strange places, but frozen peas were a first for me. Good, I said. Keep them there for now. Don't tell anyone you've spoken to me. Her voice trembled. Can you help me? Please? I don't have much money, but I can. We'll talk about that later, I interrupted. Right now I just need to know why you think your own family is doing this to you. The silence stretched heavy and loaded. When she finally spoke, her answer made the hair on my arm stand up. Because, Mr. Vega, they've done it before. They've done it before. I stayed very still, pen hovering over the notepad. To you? To my sister, Ruth whispered. To Alma. Different papers. Same trick. They help her too. She ended up in a one-bedroom halfway to Oxnard, with a broken heater and a door that wouldn't lock. She died there last winter. How did they help her? They called it refinance. Said her rate was bad, that they could fix it, but the house was in their name when it was over. Her breath snagged. I thought it was Alma's fault, that she was careless. I didn't think my own boy, she trailed off, as if the words were brittle glass, and anything more would turn them to dust. "I'm coming tomorrow," I said. "Keep the papers under the peas." Ventura greeted me with a sky the color of bleached denim, and a breeze that smelled like eucalyptus and ocean salt if you squinted your imagination. Ruth's neighborhood was a kind of single-story California that pretends it's timeless. Low roofs, stubborn roses clinging to chain link, sun-faded house numbers screwed in crooked decades ago. Ruth met me at the screen door before I knocked. She was smaller than her voice suggested, a hummingbird in a thrifted cardigan, eyes red-rimmed but alert. She hugged her elbows the way people do when they've learned their own body isn't a safe place anymore. "Mr. Vega," she said, and then with a fragile smile, "Come in. I made coffee. It might be too strong." I got nervous. "Strong is fine," I said, stepping into a living room that felt like a museum to a life lived honestly. Crochet blankets, family photos where everyone still liked each other, an old wedding portrait of a man with a movie star jawline and paint on his knuckles. "That's Ernesto," she said, following my gaze. "He built kitchens. He used to come home smelling like sawdust and lemons. When he died, Michael said he would take care of me." We didn't say what we were both thinking. He had. She led me to the kitchen. The freezer door squealed like a complaint. She moved aside a bag of frozen peas, a pound of chicken thighs turned to white marble, and a Tupperware of something that had been soup 2 presidents ago. A Ziploc slid free, swollen with paper. "I know it's silly," she said, "but the last time Stephanie came over, I watched her look through my file cabinet when she thought I was napping. Hiding them was smart," I said, taking the bag to the table. I spread the contents like a blackjack dealer. The deed with tidy paragraphs and a notary seal pressed deep enough to make the paper pucker, a stack of bank letters with cheerful fonts that felt like bullying in pastel, photocopies of driver's licenses, something labeled durable power of attorney, financial dated 2 years ago. "Do you remember signing this POA?" I asked. She frowned, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Michael brought a woman one day. Said she was a notary. She was very efficient. She put yellow stickers where I should sign. It was fast. I thought it was just in case I ended up in the hospital. Were you in the hospital around this date?" She paused. "No, I was at church. Wednesday novena. Ask Sister Lucia. She'll tell you." I checked the deed. The notary's name was clean script. Kendra S. Lyle, commission number 2170-something. The stamp said Los Angeles County. "You signed this here in Ventura?" "Right in this kitchen," Ruth said. "At my table." "Not in L.A.? Ventura. I don't go to Los Angeles. Too many lanes." I made a note. Notaries can travel outside their county, but they don't change counties on their seal. Not a smoking gun. But the date, March 12th, itched. On a hunch, I pulled the bank letters. One was dated March 8th. "We're pleased to confirm your new auto draft." The draft wasn't new at all. It was a reroute from Ruth's account to an account with the last 4 digits, 0931. The name on that account, Reynolds Family Trust. "Did you set up a trust?" I asked. "What's a trust?" she said. My phone vibrated with a voicemail, as if on cue. I didn't recognize the number. I let it go. We kept reading. There was a life estate rider, fine print that looked like compassion, if you didn't know better. Life estates are the velvet glove over the iron fist. They let you live in your house for life, while someone else owns it. Tax benefits for them, a leash for you. Do they have keys? I asked. Michael does. Stephanie says it's for emergencies. The other day I found my spice rack rearranged. They don't like cumin. A small, embarrassed laugh. I like cumin. We moved to the photocopies. Ruth's license, a little soft around the edges, but valid. Another license. Kendra Lyle, the notary. The photo was harsh DMV lighting, a woman with blunt bangs and a tired mouth. At the bottom, in tiny print, an expiration date, February 28th, last year. I held the deed up to the light. Stamps are stamps. Ink is ink. But an expired notary performing a notarization a year after a commission died? If true, that wasn't smudge. That was felony territory. My phone buzzed again. I checked the voicemail. A woman's voice, crisp, impatient, practicing politeness like a second language. Hi, this message is for Ruth Delgado. This is Stephanie. Please call when you get this. There's a showing scheduled this weekend, and we need to make sure the house is presentable. Also, minor repairs are overdue. The faucet drips. The buyers notice things like that. Buyers. I hit play again, letting the last word sit between us. They want to sell, Ruth said, the words hollow. Where am I supposed to go? Nowhere, I said. Not yet. A tap sounded from the backslider. I turned. A woman in her 30s stood outside the glass, waving with the confidence of a niece who used to borrow things without asking. Ruth hustled to unlock the door. Marisol, she said. This is Mr. Vega. Marisol had the quick eyes of someone who learned early to clock exits. She set a bag of conscious on the counter and nodded at the papers. So you finally told somebody. I didn't want to get Michael in trouble, Ruth murmured. Michael put himself in trouble. Marisol slid a manila envelope from her tote and looked at me. You should see this. Inside, copies of texts from Michael to Marisol, who lived next door to Alma until Alma died. The texts weren't bright red flags. They were orange pylons arranged into a neat path. We'll take care of Annie's new lease. Don't worry about the old place. It's in our name now. A photo of Alma's signature on a refinance she couldn't have read. She'd been legally blind without her magnifier those last months. A notary stamp again. Kendra S. Lyle. Same notary. I said. Same pattern. Marisol said. They talk, help. They bring papers after dinner. They rush old ladies. And then, poof, houses are theirs. We tried the cops. They said it was civil. We tried Adult Protective Services. They sent a pamphlet. Ruth's hands found each other and twisted. I kept thinking if I behave, they won't be angry. Ernesto used to say Michael is a good boy. I kept wanting that to be true. I took a breath that felt like a decision. Okay, I said, here's what happens now. You don't sign anything. You don't let anyone in without me here. You tell whoever calls that your agent has the documents. If they want to talk, they talk to me. Ruth nodded quickly, her eyes glossy. Agent. Okay. I photographed everything, then started a list in fat block letters. Verified notary commission Lyle. Recorder's office. Pull original deed, POA, any assignments. Bank. Identify account ending 0931. Alma's file. Date of death versus refinance date. Physician letter about Ruth's capacity around March. We were almost done when I noticed a second deed buried at the bottom of the Ziploc, stapled to a printout of an email thread. I freed it gently. This one was shorter, uglier. Quick claim deed. Grantor, Michael Reynolds. Grantee, Seaward Family Holdings, LLC. Date, March 28th, 16 days after Ruth's life estate transfer. Consideration, $10. Who is Seaward? Ruth asked. Not a who, I said. A what? An LLC. A shell, probably. The email on top was from m.reynolds@seawardholdings.com to s.reynolds@. Filed today. Told Mom. We were updating the title insurance. Don't tell her about the investors yet. I read it twice, then a third time, not because it was complicated, but because my pulse had started to drum in my ears. I flipped the quitclaim. Bottom right, the same notary stamp. Kendra S. Lyle. Marisol, I said, voice even. When did Alma die? January, she said softly. January 9th. And her refinance notarization with Kendra? February 2nd. I set the papers down very carefully, as if rough handling might make the truth wriggle away. This isn't just family greed, I said. It's organized and sloppy. Ruth exhaled a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. Sloppy is good, right? For us, I said. For them, it's a problem. Outside, the afternoon had turned to that California gold that makes stucco look honest. In the distance, a siren wailed and kept going. I took a photo of a notary seal, zoomed on the commission number, and typed it into my notes. Then the doorbell rang. Not a knock. A cheerful, entitled chime. Ruth flinched. Marisol reached for her hand. I looked at the peephole. A man in a slim suit and sunglasses stood on the stoop, smile already loaded. Next to him, a woman with a clipboard and a open house prep. The woman called through the door. Sing-song. We spoke to Stephanie. Just need a quick walkthrough. Ruth's fingers tightened around the edge of the table until her knuckles went paper white. I slid the quitclaim into my bag and nodded toward the hallway. Time to see if they want to play by the rules, I said, and reached for the deadbolt. I opened the door just wide enough to block most of the view inside. The man in the suit removed his sunglasses with the exaggerated courtesy of someone expecting applause. "Afternoon," he said. "You must be Ruth. I'm Colin. This is Dana. We're just here to take a look around. Quick and painless." Ruth's voice came from behind me, brittle and polite. "I wasn't told about this." "Oh, Stephanie said she'd handle it." Dana chimed in, flashing a realtor's smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's just standard prep before the first showing this weekend." I kept my hand on the edge of the door. No showings today, and no entry without the homeowner's permission. Colin chuckled, like I'd made a joke. "Sir, I appreciate your concern, but Michael is on the title." He gave us the go-ahead. Ruth shifted behind me. I didn't. I held up a hand. And yet, Ruth still has a life estate in the property, which means she has a legal right to exclusive possession until she dies. You can't override that with phone call to her son. Dana blinked. "Life estate." I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "It's on a recorded deed. You should probably review your paperwork before barging into occupied homes." That took some of the air out of their confidence. Dana's eyes flicked to Colin, who pulled a phone from his jacket and started scrolling. "Look," he said finally, "we don't want trouble. We just need to make sure the place is ready." "Then schedule it properly," I said, pushing the door another inch closed. "Through Ruth. In writing. At her convenience. Otherwise, you're trespassing." Something shifted in Colin's expression, an edge of irritation. "We'll let Stephanie know you're involved." "You do that," I said, and shut the door. The latch clicked like a period at the end of the sentence. Ruth was trembling. One hand pressed to her chest. "They've never come like that before. Just showing up. That's because they're getting ready to move fast." I said, "They think you won't push back." Marisol crossed her arms. "Well, now they know she's not alone." Once the coast was clear, I called a contact in the Ventura County Clerk Recorder's office. "Need you to pull the full chain of title for a property," I said, giving her Ruth's address. She whistled low when she got to the most recent filings. "Hoo boy, looks like your grantor, Michael Reynolds, moved that life estate into an LLC 2 weeks after he got it. Seaward Holdings. Seen them before. They buy distressed properties and flip." "They buy," I said, "or they take." She laughed without humor. "Same thing when you're this good at papering it over. But the notary on all of these, that's odd. Same one, Kendra S. Lyle." I gave her the commission number. Checked the status. She was back in under a minute. Expired February last year. Any documents notarized after that are invalid on their face. If the signatures are genuine, the notarization still isn't. Opens the door to fraud charges. I thanked her, hung up, and turned to Ruth. We just got our first real crack in their armor. That night, I spread the freezer files and Marisol's envelope across my motel bed. Patterns were already forming. Elderly relative targeted under guise of help. Papers brought to the home, pre-marked with sticky flags. Same notary on multiple transactions, despite expired commission. Rapid transfer to LLC within weeks. Attempted sale within months. If it was just Ruth and Alma, maybe it could pass for isolated greed. But people who run the same play twice usually run it more than that. I started searching county databases for Kendra S. Lyle, Ventura, L.A., Santa Barbara. Her name kept popping up on deeds tied to people over 70, often with life estate riders. Most of those properties have been sold within a year to one of 3 LLCs: Seaward Holdings, Pacific Crown Partners, and Suncrest Investments. Each LLC had a different mailing address, but the registered agents all linked back to a single P.O. box in Oxnard. The more I clicked, The cold of the air in that motel room felt. The next morning, Ruth called before I'd finished my first coffee. Her voice was tight. "They came back," she said. "Stephanie this time. She said if I keep making this difficult, she'll have to reevaluate the arrangement." "What arrangement?" "She said the life estate could be rescinded if I'm not cooperative. That is in the fine print." A pause. "Is that true?" "No," I said. "It's a lie meant to scare you." "She also said—" Ruth hesitated. "She said the house isn't safe for me anymore, that the wiring's bad. She said I should think about moving before something happens." Marisol's voice cut in faintly from somewhere in Ruth's house. "They're trying to spook her out, Mr. Vega." I was already grabbing my jacket. "Don't let her sign anything. I'm on my way." When I arrived, Stephanie's BMW was still in the driveway. I parked behind it. Through the front window, I could see her standing in Ruth's living room, all blazer and sharp angles, holding a manila folder like a weapon. I stepped inside without knocking. "Good morning, Stephanie." Her eyes narrowed. "And you are—" "The one making sure Ruth doesn't get steamrolled." She gave a thin smile. "We're just discussing options. Ruth has been under a lot of strain. Michael, and I thought it best to simplify things." Ruth clutched the arm of her chair. "He said he was my agent," she blurted. Stephanie's smile tightened. "Ah, so you've hired help." "Help," I said, "is one word for it. Witness is another." She set the folder on the coffee table, slowly, like she was defusing a bomb. "We'll be in touch." The moment she was gone, Ruth sagged. I picked up the folder she'd left. Inside, a pre-filled vacancy agreement. Essentially a surrender of her life estate in exchange for a relocation stipend. The stipend, $1,500. "They think you'll trade your home for less than 2 months' rent," I said. Ruth's lips pressed into a thin line. "They don't know me as well as they think." "Good," I said, "because we're about to make sure the right people know them." 2 days later, I was sitting in the Ventura County Hall of Administration, the kind of low-slung civic building that smells faintly of toner and cafeteria coffee. A clerk named Shonda slid a thin manila file across the counter. "This is everything we have on Kendra S. Lyle's commission," she said, tapping the top page. "Expired February 28th, 2024. No renewal application filed. No record of discipline, but—" She leaned in. "Her mailing address is a UPS store box. That's unusual." Inside the file was a black and white headshot stapled to the application. Blunt bangs, flat expression. No hint she'd end up notarizing deeds and questionable transactions. Her last listed employer. Seaward title and escrow, Oxnard. "Are they still in business?" I asked. Shonda smirked. "Depends on what you mean by business. They closed their storefront last summer. P.O. box only now." I left with copies of everything and drove to the UPS store. P.O. Box 314 was on the second row. I loitered near the greeting cards, pretending to compare birthday messages until a young clerk asked if I needed help. "Just waiting for my friend," I said, pointing vaguely toward the mailboxes. "She's meeting me here, Kendra Lyle." His eyebrows rose a fraction. "Haven't seen her in a while. Sometimes a guy picks up for her. Tall, dark suit, always in a hurry." Michael Reynolds fit that description if you shaved off the family resemblance to Ruth. I thanked him and stepped outside, taking a slow breath of air that smelled like asphalt warming under the late morning sun. If Michael was retrieving Kendra's mail, it wasn't just a family scheme anymore. He was in business with her, or she was in business with him. Back at my motel, I called an old acquaintance in the Ventura County DA's office, Investigator Leo Price. We'd worked together on a fraud case 5 years back. "Tell me you've got something good," he said when I explained. "Because I've been hearing Seaward holdings pop up in complaints from Oxnard to Santa Maria. Expired notary, repeat victims, elderly homeowners losing property under life estate transfers. Same notary stamp on everything. Ruth Delgado's case is just the latest." He made a low sound. "We've had 3 reports this quarter alone. None of them stuck. Families wouldn't testify. Too embarrassed or too scared. I've got Ruth, and I've got her neighbor, Marisol, both willing to talk. plus paperwork tying Michael Reynolds to Kendra's P.O. box. That's a start, he said. Get me notarized statements from Ruth and Marisol, and copies of every document you got with Kendra's stamp. I'll run them past our elder abuse unit. That night, Ruth sat at her kitchen table with a pen in hand. Marisol poured coffee into mismatched mugs. Just write it like you're telling me the story. I told Ruth what happened, who was there, what they said. Don't worry about fancy words. She wrote slowly, the pen scratching across lined paper. Dates, times, names. Michael bringing a nice lady with a briefcase. Stephanie's simplify things speech. The sudden push to move out. The mysterious quitclaim to Seaward Holdings. Marisol's statement was sharper, angrier. She described watching Alma's decline, the way Michael and Stephanie visited only with papers in hand. The day Alma's furniture was loaded into a moving truck while she sat in a folding chair on the lawn. When they were done, I had them sign and date each page. I notarized them myself. Not as part of the case, but to make them official records a DA could use. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 6:42 a.m. Unknown number. I answered. You're making a mistake, a man's voice said. Calm, almost bored. You don't understand the arrangement. Who is this? Pause. Let's just say I represent parties who have an interest in seeing this matter resolved quietly. Then you should tell Michael Reynolds to stop trying to bully his mother out of her house. A short laugh. Michael's not the problem. You are. The line went dead. I drove to Ruth's. She was on the porch in her robe, arms wrapped around herself. They came again, she said before I'd shut the truck door. Last night, I heard the gate. When I looked, there was a flashlight moving around the backyard. Did you call the police? I didn't want to make trouble. Ruth, I said gently, this is trouble already. She nodded, shame and fear wore in her eyes. That afternoon, Leo called. We ran your notary. Kendra Lyle's expired commission is the least of it. She's got a sealed misdemeanor from 15 years ago, document tampering in L.A. County. She pled down from a felony. Guess what the docs were? Real estate. Bingo. We also pulled business record for your LLCs, Seaward Holdings, Pacific Crown, Suncrest. Different managers on paper. Same mailing address. And the registered agents? All ties to a guy named Martin Kellier. He's a property flipper with a history of distressed acquisitions. Michael's name on any of it? Not directly. But Kellier's wife? Co-owner of a boutique in Santa Barbara. Credit card records show Stephanie Reynolds is a frequent customer. The net was tightening. I could feel it. But nets cut both ways. If they knew I was digging, they'd pull Ruth's case into deeper water before the DA could act. That evening, I stopped by to check on Ruth. She was cooking Eraz con pollo. The smell warm and familiar. Feels good to cook, she said. Makes me feel like myself. I was helping her chop onions when headlights swept across the front windows. A car idled outside. Not Michael's. Not Stephanie's. A black SUV. Windows tinted too dark for California law. Stay inside, I told her, stepping to the porch. The SUV rolled forward slowly, the driver's silhouette barely visible. At the corner, it paused, brake lights glowing in the dark, before disappearing down the street. Inside, Ruth's phone was buzzing on the counter. A new voicemail. She put on speaker. It was Stephanie. Mom, we need to talk. You can't trust people who don't have your best interest at heart. We're your family. Remember that. And if you keep this up, it's not just a house you could lose. She hung up without a goodbye. Ruth's hand trembled as she set the phone down. What else can I lose? I didn't answer. Not yet, because part of me suspected Stephanie wasn't talking about possessions at all. I decided it was time to stop circling Michael Reynolds and step right into his path. Finding him wasn't difficult. His LinkedIn profile, smug headshot, vague title property consultant, listed Ventura co-working space as his business address. The kind of place where entrepreneurs rented a desk for the Wi-Fi and the illusion of legitimacy. When I walked in, a receptionist in a headset barely looked up. Do you have an appointment? Tell Michael Reynolds that his mother's agent is here. That got me a look, half confusion, half interest. She tapped at her keyboard, then pointed toward a glass-walled conference room, second on the left. Michael was leaning back in a sleek office chair, phone to his ear, a legal pad covered in doodles in front of him. When he saw me, his expression didn't change, but I noticed the phone conversation ended abruptly. "You're Vega," he said, as if it were an accusation. "And you're the guy trying to turn his mother into a renter in her own home." He gave a dry chuckle. "You've been talking to Ruth. That's your first mistake. She's sentimental, not very practical." I stepped closer. "Selling her house for $10 to your shell company is practical?" Michael shrugged. "It's called asset protection. Keeps out of probate. Protects it from taxes. She still gets to live there. Until you rescind her life estate." His smile faltered just a fraction. "You've been reading too much fine print. And you've been hiring an expired notary." That got him. His jaw tightened. "Careful what you say, Vega. Words have consequences. So do actions." I slid a manila envelope onto the table. Inside was a copy of Ruth's statement, Marisol's statement, and the DA's intake form. "Leo Price, Ventura County DA's office. He'll be calling you soon." Michael glanced at the envelope, but didn't touch it. "You think you're a hero, but you're just meddling in family business. That never ends well. Not for the family," I said. "For me, it usually ends just fine." I left before he could answer, because men like Michael hate nothing more than not having the last word. On the sidewalk, my phone buzzed. It was Leo. "You might want to sit down," he said. "We've been digging through property transfers tied to your notary. We found another one last month. Same MO, elderly man, living alone, signed a deed with a life estate to his niece. 2 weeks later, quit claim to Suncrest Investments." "Where?" "Camarillo. Guy's name is Albert Tully. Vietnam vet. Has no idea his house is already listed on the MLS." The words hit like ice water. "Can you hold him off?" "We can try, but without a complaint from him, it's a slow process. If you can get him to file, we got a pattern." I drove straight to Camarillo. Albert's house was a weathered ranch with a flagpole in the yard and a '68 Ford pickup under a tarp. He answered the door in a flannel shirt and jeans, white hair sticking up like he'd been napping. "Mr. Tully? My name's Vega. I need to talk to you about your house." He looked wary but not surprised. "Let me guess. Something about the papers my niece had me sign? What did she tell you they were?" "Refi papers. Said she'd get me a better rate. I didn't read 'em. Should have known better." We sat at his kitchen table while he poured coffee into mugs that didn't match. He produced a folder. No freezer hiding, just in a drawer next to silverware. The deed was exactly as Leo described. Life estate to niece on March 3rd. Quit claim to Suncrest on March 17th. Same notary stamp. Kendra S. Lyle. "They gonna take my house?" he asked quietly. "Not if you file a complaint today." By dusk, Albert's statement was in my truck, notarized and ready for Leo. I called him from the road. "That's 2 active victims willing to testify," I said. "Ruth and Albert, plus Alma's case for background. That's enough for our elder abuse unit to take it up," Leo replied. "But you should know, word's getting around that you're poking at this. We've had 2 hang-up calls at the office asking if we really had a case. They're feeling the heat." When I got back to Ventura, Ruth's porch light was on. She was waiting with a manila envelope in her lap. "Mail came for me today," she said. "Certified. From a law office." I took it and read the first page. "Notice to quit. 60 days. It claimed her life estate was void due to non-cooperation and obstruction of sale. They're trying to scare you into leaving before the DA gets involved," I said. Her mouth was a thin, stubborn line. "They think I'm scared. But I'm just angry now." Good, I thought, because anger, channeled right, is what keeps people from folding under pressure. I called Leo. "We need to move faster. They're escalating." "Then let's push the button," he said. "Bring me everything tomorrow morning. We'll open the case and start subpoenas. Won't that tip them?" "They're already tipped," Leo said. "Better to come in loud." At 11 p.m., I was sorting Ruth's documents when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost let it go, but answered. A woman's voice, low and tight. You don't know what you've gotten into. Stephanie? A pause. They won't stop with her house. You need to let this go. And if I don't? Another pause. Then you'll find out why the others stayed quiet. The line went dead. I stared at the phone for a long moment, then at Ruth's stack of papers. Letting it go wasn't in my nature, but it did make me wonder. How many others were there? By 8:15 the next morning, I was in the Ventura County District Attorney's building. The manila folders stacked like bricks on my arm. Leo met me in the lobby, coffee in one hand, a legal pad in the other. He looked at the folders and whistled. You've been busy. We headed upstairs to a conference room that smelled faintly of carpet cleaner and old paper. A prosecutor from the Elder Abuse Unit, Sheila Park, was already there, hair pulled into a tight bun, reading from a file. This the Ruth Delgado case? She asked, not looking up. Among others, I said, laying the folders out. Ruth, Albert Tully, Alma Delgado, deceased, all with property transfers notarized by Ken Dress. Lyle after her commission expired, all with life estates that magically evaporated in under a month, all transferred to one of 3 LLCs tied to a single P.O. box. Sheila finally looked up. And you got willing complainants? 2 live, 1 deceased with a paper trail and a witness. She leaned back. That's enough for probable cause. We'll start with subpoenas for bank records, notary journals, and the LLC formation docs. If the same names pop on all 3, we can tie conspiracy charges. Leo nodded. We've already flagged Seaward Holdings and Suncrest Investments in other complaints. If we find the same registered agent across counties, this gets a lot bigger. By noon, Sheila had signed off on the first round of subpoenas. 1 to the Ventura County Clerk Recorder for all deeds notarized by Kendra Lyle in the past 3 years. 1 to Wells Fargo for account information tied to the 0931 number on Ruth's automatic draft. 1 to the California Secretary of State for corporate filings on Seaward, Suncrest, and Pacific Crown Partners. I'd seen investigations start before, but there was a different energy here. No casual pacing, no let's see what happens. They were moving like people who knew the other side wouldn't sit still. That night, Ruth called me. A man came to the door today. Said he was from the gas company. Wanted to check the meter inside. Inside? I asked. Meters are outside. I told him that. He said this was a special reading. I shut the door. Marisol's voice came on the line. I was here. He left in a black SUV. Same as before. They were probing, looking for a crack, testing how easily they could get someone in the house. From now on, I told Ruth, no one inside unless they're wearing a badge you can call to verify. And call me first. The next morning, Leo rang me at 6:55 a.m. You're going to like this, he said. Secretary of State just responded. All 3 LLCs, Seaward, Suncrest, Pacific Crown, list the same registered agent, Kellier Business Services. And the sole managing member of Kellier Business Services is Martin Kellier. Kellier, I said. The flipper. Yep. And guess who Kellier's accountant is married to? I waited. Kendra S. Lyle. By late afternoon, we had a clearer picture. Kellier's operation was buying or acquiring under false pretenses, dozens of properties a year. The expired notary wasn't a mistake. It was the whole point. Kendra could be counted on to process signatures without the scrutiny an active commission might attract. Once the property was in an LLC, they'd move fast, listing, selling, flipping, before anyone could mount challenge. The original owner with their life estate would be offered a lowball buyout or pressured into leaving. Ruth wasn't just a target. She was one of many. At 4:32 p.m., Leo forwarded me an internal memo. Subject: similar case, San Diego County. An investigator down south had 2 nearly identical complaints. Elderly owners, same type of life estate transfer, same LLCs. One of the victims had already moved into assisted living after agreeing to vacate. I read the memo twice. This isn't just Ventura, I told Ruth later. They've been working the entire coast. She stirred sugar into her coffee, her hand steady now. Good. Then it won't just be me they have to answer to. That night, as I was locking up my motel room, someone slid an envelope under the door. No markings, just a bulge in the center. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single Polaroid. It was Ruth's house, taken from across the street. The shot was close enough to see her in the kitchen window, stirring a pot. No note, no threat written in ink, just a message in the image. We're watching. I called Leo. They just crossed into stupid territory. His voice was sharp. Don't show Ruth yet. We'll get CSU on it for prints. And I'll have a unit swing by her place tonight. The next morning, I sat in Sheila's office while she flipped through the growing stack of evidence. We've got enough to justify search warrants, she said. Kellier's office, Kendra's home, the LOC's bank accounts. I leaned forward. How fast can we move? As soon as the judge signs. And Vega, keep your people close. Desperate suspects do desperate things. Outside her office, the hallway smelled like fresh coffee and adrenaline. I had a feeling the next step wouldn't just uncover paper. We'd be kicking over a nest. If you want, I can make part 7 the point where the Warrens go live, Kendra and Kellier's world start cracking, and the suspects make their first big countermove. One that puts Ruth directly in harm's way. That's where the personal danger will really start to climb. The Warrens went live on a Thursday morning, the kind of sharp, clear day California sells in postcards. By 7:15 a.m., 3 unmarked sedans and a Ventura County Sheriff's SUV were parked outside Kellier Business Services in Oxnard. I stood with Leo across the street, watching a team in windbreakers spill through the glass door with the casual speed of people who'd done this before breakfast. Think he's in there? I asked. Leo smirked. If he's smart, he's already halfway to Vegas. But smart isn't a strong suit. 10 minutes later, 2 deputies emerged carrying bankers' boxes. Another followed with a desktop tower hugged to his chest like it might bite. From the sidewalk, I caught a glimpse of a whiteboard inside. Columns of addresses. Half of them already crossed out. Leo's phone buzzed. Kendra's house, he said after a quick read. They've got her notary journal. And you'll love this. Half the entries don't even list a Signer's ID, just known to me. That's not a journal, I said. That's a wish list. By noon, I was back at Ruth's with the update. She was at the table, knitting something in bright turquoise yarn. Marisol sat opposite, scrolling her phone. They hit Kellier and Kendra this morning. I told them. Got documents, computers, the whole lot. If the addresses on that board match up with recorded deeds, we got them on pattern evidence. Ruth's needles didn't stop moving, but her mouth curved into a faint smile. Good. Maybe now they'll leave me alone. Before I could answer, her phone rang. She checked the screen and frowned. Blocked number. Don't answer, I said. She let it ring out, but a minute later, Marisol's phone buzzed. Different number. She answered, and her face went hard. It's Stephanie. She says she needs to come over. Says it's urgent. I held out my hand. Marisol passed me the phone, and I put on speaker. Stephanie, I said. A pause. Then, Mr. Vega, we should talk. I can't imagine what about. Her voice shifted. Less smooth now, more brittle. There's been a misunderstanding. Things have gone further than they should. If Ruth drops her complaint, we can... Not happening. Another pause. You don't want this to turn ugly. It already is. I ended the call. Ruth's needles had stopped. They sound scared, she said softly. Scared people make mistakes. I told her. But they also do stupid, dangerous things. That night, Ruth Street was quiet. The kind of quiet where you hear the click of your own porch light switch. I was parked 2 houses down, eyes on her front gate, when a dark sedan eased to the curb. 2 figures got out, both men, both wearing hoodies pulled low. They moved to the side fence, one pulling a small pry bar from his pocket. I was out of my truck before they'd made it halfway over. Sheriff's office. I barked, loud enough to echo. They froze, looked at me, then bolted for car. I caught the first 3 digits of the plate before they tore off. 7XZ. Ruth came to the door, robe tied around her. What happened? Nothing you need to worry about. I lied. No sense adding another layer to her fear tonight. But in my gut, I knew this wasn't random intimidation. This was them checking if she was alone, and how fast someone would show up. The next morning, Leo called. You're not going to like this. Kendra made bail. And guess who posted it? Kellier. Nope. Michael Reynolds. Paid in cash. I rubbed my forehead. So the family is officially bankrolling the operation. More than that, we pulled Michael's phone records. He's been in regular contact with Kellier for at least a year. And last month, multiple calls to a number registered to a private investigator in L.A. What kind of PI? The kind that doesn't advertise. Former cop. Specializes in locating difficult individuals. I didn't need the subtext spelled out. That evening, Ruth's landline rang again. She answered before I could stop her, listened for a moment, then handed me the receiver. A male voice, deep, steady. Mr. Vega, this is your last warning. Walk away, or someone's going to get hurt. I let the silence hang until he said, Do you understand me? I understand you just gave me probable cause to have this call traced. I said and hung up. Ruth's eyes were wide. They're not just after the house anymore, are they? No, I said. Now, they're after anyone who gets in the way. The rain started just after midnight. Steady cold and loud enough to mask footsteps on wet concrete. I was dozing in the recliner at Ruth's, the .38 in my lap under a folded blanket, when Marisol's frantic whisper jolted me awake. Someone's in the backyard. I was on my feet before she'd finished the sentence. Through the kitchen window, I caught the faint bob of a flashlight beam cutting across the garden. The rain slicked every surface, making shadows twitch and slide. Ruth, I said, keeping my voice calm, go to the hallway. Stay low. The beam stopped at the back door. A gloved hand tested the knob, then moved down to the deadbolt. The metallic click of lockpicks followed. Fast, practiced. I stepped to the side of the door, gun ready, and flipped the porch light. Sheriff's deputies. Drop it. I barked. The hand vanished. The flashlight beam swung wildly, then went out. By the time I threw the door open, the intruder was halfway over the back fence, rainwater streaming off his hood. I chased far enough to see him sprint toward a black sedan idling with the passenger door open. The plate, 7XZ again, burned into my vision as they fishtailed away. 15 minutes later, a Ventura County Patrol car was in the driveway. The responding deputy took my statement, then turned to Ruth. You've had prior incidents? He asked gently. Ruth's voice shook. First it was phone calls, then people showing up saying they were buyers. Now this. He nodded. We'll flag the address for extra patrols, and I'll have our crime scene tech take a look at that lock. The tech found fresh scratches on the deadbolt and a muddy partial print on the doorframe. She swabbed it, bagged it, and left with a promise to rush it through. The next morning, Leo called with an update that made my grip on the phone tighten. That plate you gave me, registered to a rental car company, and L.A. paid for with a car belonging to, wait for it, Stephanie Reynolds. She's not even trying to hide it. She doesn't think she has to, but that attempted break-in, that's a game changer. We can tie her directly to an act meant to intimidate a protected party in an active investigation. Which means we can push for bail revocation on Kendra and add witness intimidation charges to pile. By noon, Sheila had the motion drafted, and by 4, a judge signed off on a warrant for Stephanie's phone records. While they worked, I took Ruth and Marisol to a safe address, a friend's guest house in Santa Paula. Rural, quiet, off the suspect's radar. I gave her the burner phone and strict instructions. Only me, Leo, or Sheila gets this number. No one else. Her eyes were tired but steady. I didn't want to leave my house. You'll go back, I said, but we're going to make sure it's still yours when you do. That night, back at my motel, I got a text from an unknown number. We know where she is. No signature. No other words. I called Leo immediately. They're fishing, he said. Don't confirm or deny anything. Just forward it to me. We'll get a trace started. 2 hours later, he called back. Numbers are prepaid. Bought yesterday in L.A. But here's the fun part. It was purchased at a liquor store 2 blocks from Kellier's office. The following afternoon, the break we've been waiting for dropped. The muddy print from Ruth's back door, a match in the system, Martin Kellier himself. Within an hour, Leo's team was at Kellier's Oxnard condo. He didn't resist, but his lawyer was already on speed dial, shouting about overreach before the cuffs were even on. Kellier was booked for attempted burglary, conspiracy, and witness intimidation. Stephanie's arrest came the next morning. 2 deputies walked her out of her and Michael's stucco front house in handcuffs, while neighbors peeked from behind blinds. The booking photo hit the local paper before lunch. Michael, for now, was still walking free. But with Kellier and Stephanie in custody, his world was shrinking. I visited Ruth in Santa Paula to give her the news. She listened quietly, then asked, "What happens now?" "Now," I said, "we lean on the ones we got until they give us the rest. Michael, Kendra, and anyone else in their little club." She nodded. "I'm ready to go home when it's safe." "It will be," I told her, and for once, I believed it. Michael Reynolds didn't call or send a lawyer. He showed up. Late afternoon sun was slanting across the motel curtains when 3 sharp knocks hit my door. No hesitation. No pretending it was a friendly visit. I opened it to find Michael in jeans and a tired sweatshirt, looking like a man who'd run out of places to hide. "Can I come in?" "That depends," I said. "You here to threaten me or talk?" He glanced down the walkway before stepping inside. "You've got this all wrong." I closed the door behind him. "From where I'm standing, your mother's house is in your LLC's name. Your wife's in custody for intimidating a witness. And your partner was caught breaking into her backyard. Which part am I wrong about?" Michael's jaw flexed. I didn't know they were going that far. Kellier pushes. "Stephanie, she wants things fast." I just what? Thought it was business. Clean. No one gets hurt. I let the silence hang until he shifted in his chair. "And how many of these clean deals have you done?" His eyes dropped. "More than a few. But Mom wasn't supposed to be like the others. I figured I'd hold the property, refinance it, cover repairs. She could stay until..." He stopped, realizing the end of that sentence wouldn't sound noble. "Until she died?" He swallowed hard. "It wasn't supposed to be ugly. Ugly's what happens when you steal from people who trusted you," I said. Then he gave me the deal. 3 counties, 17 properties, everyone tied to elderly owners, everyone run through Kendra's expired notary stamp and into Kellier's LLCs before being flipped to cash buyers. Consulting fees for him and Stephanie. Quiet cuts for Kellier, a quick resale at double the price. And 2 live deals in motion. One in Carpinteria, one in Goleta. Owners still alive. Papers ready to sign. I called Leo on speaker. "I've got Michael Reynolds. He's ready to talk." "Hold him," Leo said. "I'm coming." 20 minutes later, Michael was writing it all out under Sheila's watchful eye, initialing every page like he was signing his own indictment. That night, Ruth called from Santa Paula. "I heard about Stephanie on the news," she said. "She's not the only one," I told her. Michael gave us the rest. "We're shutting the whole thing down." A long pause. "Do you think he's sorry?" "I think he's sorry he got caught," I said. "But you don't have to forgive him to get your life back." 2 days later, the DA's office froze the LLC's accounts. The Goleta and Carpinteria owners never signed their vacancy agreements. Kellier was still in a cell, Stephanie in another. Kendra was picked up in Bakersfield trying to notarize a car title with the same dead commission stamp. When I drove Ruth home, her porch light was still broken. The flower bed still a little wild, but the key turned in the lock like it was supposed to. She stepped inside, breathing deep, like she could pull the whole house back into herself. "They'll face charges?" she asked. "Fraud. Conspiracy. Elder abuse," I said. "Enough to keep them busy for a long time." She looked around her living room. The photos, the Afghan on the couch, the kitchen she'd nearly lost. "Then I think I'll make coffee." I stood at her doorway for a moment, the afternoon light falling across the carpet, And for the first time since it started, I let myself feel like the job was done. Because some cases end in paperwork, and some end with a woman standing in her own kitchen, safe.